Hi, Andrew from SACS. Welcome to the 6th video in our 7-video sequence about teamwork. This one's about recruiting for teamwork. Can you recruit people who are more likely to fit into a team, to in effect be more team orientated? And the answer is yes, you can. The first thing we want to talk about in this respect is cognitive ability. The three most commonly used forms of cognitive ability in the workplace are verbal reasoning, numerical reasoning, and abstract reasoning. Verbal reasoning is to do with words. And not surprisingly, this has a big correlation with work effectiveness because people who are high in verbal reasoning tend to be good communicators. So for just about any job, this is important. Second is numerical reasoning. Now, this is to do with numbers, and of course this varies according to the job. Some jobs require high levels of numeracy, others not so much. And the third is a thing called abstract reasoning. Abstract reasoning is the capacity to see patterns in the world around us. People who have high levels of abstract reasoning tend to be able to understand why things are happening and tend also to be able to foresee the implications of things. So abstract reasoning has been found to be a really good predictor of a range of different problem-solving capabilities. But what has this got to do with teamwork? Well, in effect, teamwork can be affected by cognitive ability in the following ways. Cognitive ability does predict team performance, and it also predicts emergent leadership behaviours. What we mean by emergent leadership behaviours is where a group faces a challenge and leaders automatically and spontaneously emerge from that group. And maybe this leader will be focused on social aspects, keeping the team together. This one will be focused on problem solving. This one will be focused on goal achievement. But emergent leadership is crucial for the effectiveness of teams. And we do know that, as I explained in one of the earlier videos in this sequence, that when people are in an effective team, it means that you have leaders who will take responsibility for a range of different aspects of the team. You will need an overall leader typically in an effective team, but this one's the social leader. This one monitors performance and those kinds of things. Cognitive ability allows those emergent leaders to develop. So if you recruit people who are smart, they are more likely to be able to coalesce into a positive team. People who are smart tend to be flexible and adaptable, and that's a good thing because when the team runs into difficulties, rather than stopping or perhaps even disbanding or lacking cohesion, a group of people who are high in cognitive ability should be able to turn their attention to how to make things work. So there is a relationship between cognitive ability and teamwork, particularly if it's in a challenging environment. Then there's the question of personality. A fellow by the name of Bell in 2007 undertook research into team personality characteristics and identified a range of them. Now, team conscientiousness is where the team tries hard to achieve its goals, it's organised, and it persists. This is a characteristic of resilience, by the way. So if you recruit people who are individually conscientious, that correlates with team conscientiousness. So the team tends to persist more if the individuals have this characteristic of conscientiousness. The second is team agreeableness. Agreeableness is the degree to which people get on with each other and the degree to which people are likely to be easy to relate to rather than angry and difficult. And team agreeableness is an important thing because people like to work in a team or like to be a member of a team which is agreeable and easy to get along with. So team agreeableness once more is affected by individual agreeableness. If you recruit people who are individually agreeable, they are more likely to be agreeable in a team context, and that will help cohesion. The third is extroversion. Now, it has been found that teams who have extroverts in them tend to be more cohesive than introverts, and this is the simple reason because we know that when you have a lot of sharing that goes on in a team and extroverts tend to share more, that can pull the team together. That's not a reason not to hire introverts, and you can have effective teams which are made up of introverts, but they tend to be more like problem-solving teams and less reliant on individual cohesion with the group. One of the things that we know is when you have high levels of individual extroversion in a team, and therefore you have team extroversion, it places less reliance on the leader because extroverts tend to act in a more leader-like fashion anyway. So if you've got a leader that's not 100%, if you're in a team of extroverts, maybe that doesn't matter so much than it would if you're in a team of introverts. Team emotional stability is also important. I mentioned earlier that a component of resilience is team conscientiousness. The second component is team emotionality. Now, when an individual or a team is relatively emotionally stable, not so emotionally flighty and wound up, then they tend to be more resilient. They will persist in pursuit of their goals. And so in general, a team that has lower levels of emotionality, higher levels of emotional stability, is more likely to be less stressed, because we know that when people are highly emotional, they tend to get stressed, and that stress tends to communicate itself through mirror cells. We tend to pick up the stress of other people. So if you're in a team where people are very emotionally unstable, you are likely to find that a more stressful environment to be in. Finally, team openness to experience, and that's the degree to which people within the team are broad-minded in terms of being prepared to look at new ideas. Now, individually, people are broad-minded or perhaps more likely to be resistant to new ideas. That's a core personality characteristic. And so, like all of the ones that I've mentioned so far, if you are in an environment where you need to be very flexible, and by the way, not all teams need to do that. So for instance, if you have a team of statutory auditors where all of those statutory auditors need to comply with legislation, well, maybe that's not an environment that would require, say, the levels of creativity that you would need in a research team, which has to come up with new ways of discovering the truth. If you have people who are suited to the challenges that they face, either very broad-minded approaches to what they do, or perhaps being happy to redo what has been done in the past in a repetitive kind of a fashion, that will affect cohesion. So, once more, if you need people who are change agents, you recruit people who are like that at an individual level, and that will tend to make the team more that way. If we look at contemporary models of personality at an individual level, this is a thing called the SACS 6, and this is based on the hexaco model of personality. And you see we've mentioned emotionality, we've mentioned absence of anger, which is also known as agreeableness, we've mentioned extroversion, we've mentioned conscientiousness, and we've mentioned openness to experience. But in the hexaco, there's also this thing called integrity modesty, which when it was first discovered by Kibium Lee and Mike Ashton was called honesty humility. And what that means is where people are honest and truthful and straightforward and also not arrogant. And this is a very important driver of cohesion, because it means that people are much more likely to be honest and truthful and trustworthy. Not surprisingly, if you can rely on the people around you, you are much more likely to be part of a cohesive team than if you're worried that they might do something manipulative or unkind or for their own benefit rather than for the benefit of the group. So that's personality, but another important thing is values, and we're showing you here the SACS Work Value Scale. We have discovered that there are 11 core values at work, and one of the things that we know about this is that people's values vary enormously. Now, I mentioned earlier that personality and cognitive ability are very heavily genetically determined. It turns out that values are typically learned in the course of life, and our work values tend to be learned in the course of our work life. I won't go through them all, but I'll just pick out a couple. This one is to do with environmental sustainability. This one is to do with social justice. And you'll notice that they're both coloured green and they're side by side. And there's a reason for that. And that is that these characteristics are psychologically similar. On the other side of the diagram, you'll notice that we have ambition. And ambition is the degree to which I want to get ahead in my career. I think it's an important goal for me to get ahead in my career. Teamwork relies on values consonance. When we are in a team where our values match those of the team that we're a member of, then we are much more likely to perceive that team to be cohesive. For instance, if I'm a highly ambitious person and I'm in a team of people who are very social justice orientated, they see that everybody should be equal. Well, clearly, I'm unlikely to be seen if I'm manifesting this ambition value. I'm much less likely to be seen as a cohesive team member than if I shared their social justice orientation. So values really determine the level of cohesiveness, and that's why they evolved, basically. As we move from place to place, we learn our values in order to be able to fit in and be accepted by the people that we're with. And, of course, if we're with people whose values meet our own, then we're much more likely to like them. So, in short, you can recruit for people to be more effective team members. The next video in the sequence will be about leading for teamwork. Thanks for joining us, and click on the link near this video to join us for video number 7.